All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today is a massive milestone in your AI Marketing 101 journey. We are finally going to take all those 6 isolated pieces of coursework you've been grinding on over this first semester, your prompt, the research, the copy, visuals, your calendar, and that asset pack, and we're going to transform them into one cohesive, professional campaign stack. We're literally turning a messy folder of loose documents into your very first undeniable portfolio piece. This is your semester 1 capstone lab. This is where every single thing you've learned finally clicks together. But before we build anything, let's just take a second and look at this number. 15 grand. That is exactly what a real-world agency charges a client to deliver the kind of assembled campaign you are about to build today. Just let that sink in. The skills you've been practicing, they aren't just academic exercises anymore. They have serious, real-world market value. But, and honestly, this is a massive but, absolutely nobody is going to pay $15,000 for a chaotic folder of random files. They pay for a polished, unified product. So the absolute biggest trap you can fall into right now is treating your work as done just because you have 6 separate files chilling on your desktop. Think about it. You can have this brilliantly insightful research brief, stunningly generated AI ads, and a perfectly paced content calendar. But without assembly, you've got absolutely nothing that proves they actually belong together. A client is only going to pay for work that is assembled, because assembly is what actually creates the value. So, here's our game plan for today's explainer. We'll start with the homework versus campaign trap, move into telling one story 6 times, break down the S.T.A.C.K framework, fix your campaign seams, run a 5-check consistency audit, and end with your first portfolio piece. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the homework versus campaign trap. We need to identify exactly why a folder full of genuinely good deliverables still isn't a campaign. This is a mental hurdle that trips up so many new marketers, and recognizing it is step 1 toward professional level work. Because, as we said, treating done as assembled leaves you with a folder nobody is going to pay for. Just imagine handing a client a messy zip file full of things like add_copy_final v4.docx and 3 loose JPEGs and saying, hey, here's your marketing campaign. It feels unfinished, right? It honestly just feels like homework. Without assembly, there's no connective tissue. There's zero proof that the image you made in week 2 actually aligns with the copy you wrote in week 3. Okay, moving right along to Section 2. One story told 6 times. This right here is the major paradigm shift you need to make today if you want to escape that homework trap. If a campaign isn't just a collection of files, what is it? Well, you have to realize one fundamental thing. A campaign is simply one story told 6 times. Your research brief from Lecture 3 states the story, and every single other asset you've created is just that exact same story wearing a slightly different outfit. Whether it's a social media graphic, an ad headline, or the cadence of your calendar, it all traces back to a single unified narrative. Your whole job today is proving to yourself and to your future clients that your core story actually survived the trip from your initial research phase all the way to a final Instagram post. Which brings us to Section 3, the S.T.A.C.K framework. So, how do we actually prove that story survived? We use a very specific step-by-step methodology, the S.T.A.C.K framework. This is literally the operational playbook you will use for the rest of your career to bridge that gap between loose files and a true cohesive campaign. Let's break it down real quick. S is for story, finding that single positioning angle. T is for timeline, using your calendar to establish an actual sequence, not just a random pile of posts. A is for assets. This is where you gather all your previous work. And hey, remember, nothing new gets made today. You are just collecting, not creating. C is the consistency check, auditing everything against your story. And finally, K is kit it, packaging the whole shebang into one final file. Let's zoom in on that S for a second, the story sentence. This is absolutely crucial. It's the single positioning angle pulled directly from your research brief, and it becomes the undisputed boss of every other asset. For example, using our fictional brand for this walkthrough, Kindling Coffee Co., the story sentence is, Kindling is the coffee box for people who miss their local roaster after moving. That sentence is the boss. If a piece of content doesn't serve that specific sentence, it doesn't belong in the campaign, period. It doesn't matter how cool it looks. All right, on to Section 4, fixing the campaign seams. Let's see how this all builds into real-world application by finding where campaigns typically fall apart. When you start stitching 6 files together, you are inevitably going to find what we call seams. These are the 4 seams that can split your campaign right back into random files. And let me tell you, identifying them is the true superpower of an AI marketer. First up, copy versus research. Did your ad drift into generic problems, or does it actually match the audience's exact words? Second, visuals versus copy. Does the mood of your image match the headline's promise? If you've got super calm copy paired with a chaotic image, you instantly break consumer trust. Third, calendar versus goal. Is it just random filler content, or does the delivery ratio point directly at the campaign's one primary goal? And finally, accents versus story. Do all the little atomized pieces trace back to that single boss sentence, or did they wander completely off topic? Let's look at how we fix this in practice. Say we're doing a live audit of our fictional brand, Kindling Coffee Co., and boom, we immediately spot a seam. Imagine an ad focused on convenience paired with a really bright, playful mood. Well, if our core story is about nostalgia and missing your hometown, but we generate a bright neon-colored ad selling convenience, yeah, we just broke consumer trust. It completely misaligns with our stated story sentence. To patch it, we have to actively force the pieces to align by reprompting the AI. We literally paste the story sentence directly back into the prompt to ensure the copy aligns. And we swap out bright, playful for warm, low-light, nostalgic in our visual style block. See how that works? Okay, let's jump into section 5, the 5-check consistency audit. Once you've patched up those glaring seams, you need to run one final human pass before handing this off to a client. This 5-check consistency audit is your literal checklist to ensure your assembled deck can survive rigorous, real-world client scrutiny. Number 1, is your one thesis visible absolutely everywhere? Number 2, is there a true voice match across all your copy based on your brand rules? Number 3, is there a visual and verbal match? Number 4, does the calendar cadence actually serve the end goal? And number 5, well, number 5 is so important it honestly deserves its own spotlight. That 5th check? It's the stranger test. Can a complete stranger explain your campaign back to you in 60 seconds flat? Seriously, try this. Hand your final one-page deck to a friend, a roommate, your spouse, someone who knows absolutely nothing about the project. If they can't grasp the core narrative in 60 seconds, your deck is doing way too much telling and not nearly enough showing. The visuals, the copy, the flow, they should all communicate the core story instantly without you having to hover over their shoulder and explain it to them. And finally, we arrive at section 6, your first portfolio piece. This is it, the big moment, the culmination of your semester 1 capstone lab, where all this theory finally turns into action. Your objective here is to block out some real, focused time, like a solid 2 to 3 hours, not just a rushed 45-minute session, and compile all your audited assets. You're going to assemble your stack, patch every single seam, and then have your AI assist you in drafting a tight, 100-word case study blurb that outlines the challenge, the approach, and the result. Then, you package all of that into a single, beautiful, cohesive, one-page portfolio deck. And let me tell you, when you pass all 5 consistency checks and export that final one-pager, something amazing happens. You aren't holding 6 random homework assignments anymore. You are holding tangible, undeniable proof of your value as a marketer. By completing this meticulous process, you are creating the exact artifact that you'll proudly post on LinkedIn, use to win freelance pitches, or attach to your very next job application. 6 lectures just became undeniable proof that you can actually do the job. We're going to dive into the real client brief workflow in our next explainer, but before you open up that lab document today, I want you to ask yourself one question. Are you going to step up and assemble a $10,000 proof of your capabilities, or are you just going to let another folder of homework collect digital dust on your desktop?